known for, restoring more than property.
America has the greatest economy in the world, but I think most of us would agree we have a problem. The cost of almost everything is up. Home prices, rent, food, insurance. Every sector is taking a hit, including automotive. More Americans are keeping their cars for longer, including me. And one way that we can make life more affordable is CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company.
CarShield's rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau and named America's most trusted auto protection company.
With CarShield, drivers can save thousands on covered parts and systems like your engine, transmission, entertainment system, and more. It's the protection that I trust, just like these other happy customers.
CarShield saved me $2,700. I love CarShield. It is my lifeline.
Our life as nurses, we just step up and we help people, and it's really nice when somebody steps up and helps us. If our car breaks down, CarShield administrators have our back.
If your car's out of warranty, it's not a matter of if it'll break down, but when. Call CarShield before it's too late and protect yourself from expensive car repairs.
CarShield is ready to help year-round nationwide with thousands of vetted shops to choose from, or their concierge service to help you find a mechanic near you. Unlike other companies, they don't just send you to the cheapest place in town. I trust CarShield, and so should you.
I have filed a total of over 5 claims, and my price from when I signed up never went up. And at the age of my car, that is security.
CarShield is a U.S. company supporting hardworking Americans save over $1 billion in expensive auto repair costs. More of us are keeping our cars for longer, so give CarShield a call now before a breakdown happens. Call now.
Call CarShield now before a breakdown and see how they're saving drivers money on covered auto repairs. Call 800-842-2995. 800-842-2995.
Fanapt allopurinol is approved for adults with bipolar 1 disorder with acute mixed or manic episodes. Unlike some drugs for bipolar 1 disorder, nausea, vomiting, and restlessness are not common with Fanapt. Fanapt may be associated with serious side effects. Elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis treated with antipsychotics are at increased risk for death. Fanapt is not approved for elderly with dementia-related psychosis. Fanapt prolongs the QT interval and may be associated with abnormal heart rhythm or sudden death. In 5% or more of people in clinical trials, heart rate increases, dizziness, hypertension, weight gain, dry mouth, stuffy nose, sleepiness, and increases in liver enzymes have been observed. These are not all the side effects. Talk to your prescriber and learn more at fanapt.com. By Vanda Pharmaceuticals.
Well, our twins are hoping for another couple of snow days this week. Looks like that is not going to happen.
Not so much, but I guess things could change again. Never know.
It's certainly going to be cold enough, though. I'm wanting for those days when it's nice and warm last summer.
Yeah, it's going to be cold all week for sure. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm Sandra Smith in New York.
And I'm John Roberts, even though it was a holiday today. Lots going on, and I think it's the beginning of another very, very busy week. So stay tuned. We get the story with Martha Stark right now.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Martha McCallum. Happy President's Day to you all. A story exclusive for you this hour. I just spoke with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte as he stepped out of the Paris talks, and in front of our cameras just moments ago, President Trump has rattled European leaders, and it appears, according to our interview, that he is getting results. According to Mr. Rutte, the leaders in Europe now accept that they will not be at the negotiating table, except for Ukraine, and that they will have to take charge of securing Ukraine. Huge developments that will prompt them to have to make changes in their budgets and spend a lot more money on defense. At least that's where they are right now. Stay tuned for that full interview. We will play it for you just moments away, and we'll get the reaction and analysis in terms of whether or not President Trump has gotten what he wanted and he picks up with those strong statements advanced as well in Europe. So in the meantime, Fox is reporting that DOJ will soon have access to the data systems at the IRS in order to use their correspondent Alexandria Hall, reporting live on this huge story from Washington. Hi, Alexandria. I'm Martha Vicky with you. Yeah, for now, government trimming efforts within 7 federal agencies can continue, and that is just in the scope of this one case that we're talking about here. U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan today, in a rare holiday hearing, declined to issue an order that would halt DOJ's access to federal data and making personnel cuts. The lawsuit requesting a 14-day pause on that came from 14 state attorneys general. Judge Chutkan stated today that she will issue a ruling on their request for a temporary restraining order within 24 hours, but again, no action as of now. She also expressed some skepticism on the state's arguments, noting to meet the threshold of imminent harm on this would mean proving that something major would happen right away that can't be undone. Now, this weekend, DOJ celebrated another temporary victory with U.S. District Judge John Bates denying a temporary restraining order to block access to the records of 3 agencies, those being the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Judge Bates acknowledged privacy concerns argued by worker unions that brought the lawsuit, but ultimately decided that DOJ likely qualifies as a federal agency and therefore has the authority to access government records. So in that case, plaintiffs have been asked to file a briefing on a potential preliminary injunction that is due by the 18th. That's similar to a temporary restraining order, but with less urgency. Martha. Alexandra, thank you very much. With that, we're bringing James Freeman, Wall Street Journal editorial page assistant editor and Fox News contributor. He will be co-hosting The Bottom Line on Fox News this evening at 6 o'clock Eastern. James, always good to have you with us. Let's pull this up from the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal. The media claimed to find no fraud in government. And here's a quote from that piece, which was published yesterday in the Wall Street Journal. Remember being told that Joe Biden's verbal slips were signs of a normal agent, that rising crime was a figment of the public's imagination, and chaos at the border fabricated by MAGA Republicans. Now, the same tribune of Truth in the Press proclaim that government fraud is a mirage. Welcome, James.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Good stuff in this process.
Yeah, so that's a great piece by my colleague Alicia Finlay. I urge everybody to read it online. And it's kind of a strange situation that we had the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee acknowledge that government fraud is more than $200 billion a year. The official estimate, if you will, from GAO before Trump and Elon Musk came to town puts it possibly over $500 billion.
I just want to stop you there, Dave. Let's put these numbers up on the screen, guys. I keep going back to this full screen day after day, okay? Let's look at the full screen that shows the number that James just mentioned, okay? The federal government could be losing between $233 billion and $521 billion annually to fraud. And that's a government accounting organization in our U.S. federal government.
That's right, and that came out last year. This is before Elon.
Yes.
And his crew, whatever they can find. So similarly, IRS, they've been talking about the problem of fraud. They have thousands of investigations every year. So this is not a new concept. It's really not debatable that we have a massive problem with fraud in this country, specifically with federal programs. We also, just to remind everybody, we have this gap of almost $2 trillion between what the government spends and what it collects. It would be kind of nice if we could figure out a way without cutting off useful programs to bring that $7 trillion down closer to $6 trillion.
Do you think that part of the opposition is because it is Elon Musk? Like, I'm wondering,
Yes.
If there were, and there are, number crunchers obviously behind what he's doing. But if they came forward and said, look at us, we found your tax dollars, they're being misspent, we're going to eliminate this and this, and, it's going to be great because your tax dollars aren't going to get wasted, that people would have a better response, more sane response?
Maybe, but I think Musk is a part of it. He's kind of, for some, a helpful villain, but it's really about attacking Trump and his legitimacy. This is kind of a theme whenever Donald Trump comes to town after getting elected president. There is an effort among his opponents to cast the whole project as illegitimate. But of course, he's the president. He's been vested by us with all of the executive authority in our Constitution. Now, I know a lot of people in our industry, a lot of people in Washington like to think that there's all of this independent power that resides in the bureaucracy, but the Constitution gives it to the president. He says Elon has helping us. He's authorized to look at things. If we like it, we'll act on it. If not, we won't.
Here's Ben most likely, who's been on this program, a Democratic strategist. What do you think about this one?
I love what Jasmine Project's been saying. She said that the one immigrant that is actually taking people's jobs is Elon Musk. And so I think just sort of turning the Republican talking points against him.
What do you think about these mass layoff letters, people getting notified, like, you're on the probationary list anyway, you're not a fully vested employee of this agency, and goodbye.
Well, we have a problem. Obviously, there are too many federal employees. Obviously, the government is spending way too much. I mean, the idea that peacetime with low unemployment, we're running this even $2 trillion deficits now. It's almost a habit. It's insane. This is emergency spending. So I think this has to happen.
Yeah.
And it's happening lawfully with our president
And
saying,
they uncovered the $59 million racket of luxury hotel rooms in New York City that were being paid that much to house migrants. It's been stunning. Stunning.
but they're only paying $377 a night.
Yeah, so where's the rest of it going, James? Well, stay tuned. James will tell us the answer to that next time. Thank you very much, James Freeman. Always good to see you. All right, still ahead, a story exclusive with NATO Secretary General, and there is not a more newsworthy day to speak with him. He was literally in the Paris meeting with all of the leaders of Paris and the UK and Germany saying, what are we going to do? They're going to the table with Russia, and they're not including any of us. And I spoke with him about that. You'll see it when we come back.
Yes, they mentioned that he thought Ukraine's NATO aspirations were one of the main reasons that the war broke out. You won't blame for the war with Ukraine or Russia.
Well, I think that there are a lot of people to blame. All I can say is very simply, if I were president, that war would never have happened.
Makes me want to tear up. I swear to God, there ain't no way I would be here without TikTok. They are really good at tearing motors apart and putting them back together, and the parts that work. I received so much support for that, and it made me feel like, okay, maybe I can really, really, really do this. My business has tripled in the last year because of me sharing my videos on TikTok. I wouldn't be able to support the families that work for me now without TikTok, without the increase in sales.
Check-in time is 3. It's 2:55. I know.
Is this what he's doing now?
As your host, I have some rules. First, no showers longer than 5 minutes. This isn't a spa. No game, no fun.
Yes, Coach.
Meanwhile, at a Vrbo, when other vacation rentals make you share your turf with a host, try one you have it all to yourself.
Talk to me about the quality of life and just how a stair lift can change that.
Things that they enjoy every day, hobbies, things that they've shared with loved ones. We had a story of a lady, she would watch the sunset with her husband, and she lost access to that area of the house for several years. Giving her the opportunity to do that was amazing.
When you buy from Acorn Stair Lifts, you're not only receiving the gold standard in manufacturing, you're buying from the most trusted name in the industry. Acorn Club monitors your stair lift activity, providing you and your family with peace of mind.
I really get a sense for just how streamlined this is. Look at all the space that I have here.
Acorn stays with you for the life of the stair lift with our comprehensive service and maintenance support.
For you at home, are you ready for your peace of mind? Liberate yourself. Get yourself an Acorn stair lift today.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts at 800-316-1185.
Here's to getting better with age.
Cheers to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to that. Now available Boost Max.
You'll be back. People can't help people customize and say it's Liberty Mutual.
Well, they only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
President Trump, Elon Musk, Sean Hannity. It's the interview America will be talking about. Don't miss it tomorrow on Fox News.
sunshine with Jergens Natural Glow Instant Sun Boost. And smooth your 60-second summer tan for a natural looking all over color that glows on for days. That's the feel good feeling of Jergens.
Perfecting your swing is hard.
Nice shot.
But replacing your windshield doesn't have to be. Go to safelight.com and schedule a replacement today.
My mantra is that every next level demands a different you, and Pretty Global is giving me an opportunity to prepare myself for that next level. This is my comeback. Start yours today at prettyglobal.edu.
Meet the star of my latest film, the Toyota BZ4X. Experience Toyota all-electric BZ4X.
Try Nature Made. Made with quality, made to care for you every day.
Most Planet Fitness clubs are open 24 hours. Save today when you join for just $1 down and work out whenever.
We're coming in there. Staying late. We're down at night deadlifting.
Little golf, crack it on.
One first with it.
The rescue operations underway right now in Kentucky where catastrophic flooding is being blamed for 11 deaths, including a mom and her 7-year-old daughter. It's such a tragic flooding that we are watching here. And in northwest Tennessee, torrential rains caused a levee to fail, flooding the small town of Reeves. And that is where we find senior correspondent Jonathan Serry covering this very difficult story for so many people this afternoon. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Martha. Here in Reeves, Tennessee, most residents have already evacuated their homes over the weekend. Today, first responders went out to the homes of some of those reluctant holdouts, people who just didn't want to leave their homes behind, strongly persuading them to leave for higher ground. Take a look at our live drone shot. As you can see from these aerial views, floodwater still surround many of the homes, and even those where the water has not entered the actual structure, there's no power. And with freezing temperatures this week, authorities warn it will be uncomfortable and unsafe to stay behind. At the same time, local officials are sympathetic because they know how difficult it will be for many storm survivors to rebuild.
We have a real low economic base here. This is a rural poverty area. So, some people have flood insurance, and but a lot of people can't afford flood insurance. So they're kind of left on their own to try to get their house back in order.
President Trump has approved an emergency declaration for the neighboring state of Kentucky, where the storm has killed at least 11 people, including a 7-year-old girl and her mother. They were riding in a vehicle that was swept off the roadway by floodwaters on Saturday night. Driving conditions already treacherous, but now state officials are worried about freezing temperatures as we go into the week, the potential for black ice, and also additional snowfall. Martha?
Jonathan, thank you very much. So it is a scramble among European allies now as President Trump negotiates directly with Vladimir Putin to broker an end to the war with Ukraine. A story exclusive. My interview with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte next.
I'd like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans, because I know so many of you have served our country honorably. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is the eligibility for a VA loan, for up to 100% of your home's value. If you need cash for your family, call New Day USA. With automatic authority from the VA, we can say yes when banks say no. Give us a call.
Call 1-844-979-2694.
Veteran homeowners, need cash but worried you can't get a home loan because of your credit? Here's great news. At New Day, we've been granted automatic authority by the VA to make our own loan approval decisions. In fact, if you've had credit challenges and missed a payment along the way, you're more than 5 times more likely to get approved for the New Day 100 VA cash out loan. No one knows veterans like New Day USA.
Call 1-844-979-2694.
All
restaurant's been in business for 17 years. American technology and innovation are part of everything we do, from helping us attract new customers to facilitating deliveries through websites and apps. I'm really excited about what artificial intelligence can do for small businesses like ours. This game-changing technology can make us smarter and more efficient. Advancing open source AI will make our economy and Main Street stronger. Our leaders in Washington need to protect our competitive edge.
When you're in the military, you're really close with your brothers and your sisters that are in the military with you. And when you get out of the military, you kind of lose that until you find a new family.
We can talk about our struggles and the things that we did overseas. And not everybody can do that. How's it going, brother? We live pretty close to each other, so he's always coming over.
When I go to Jack's house, we watch a lot of football, hang out, we go outside. The friendship has kind of grown into a family. I was overseas on a deployment. I got separated from my Marines and I got hit in the neck and it broke my neck and paralyzed me.
14 years ago, I was on a training mission, did a military free fall, and I had some faulty equipment. I hit the ground going 30 to 40 knots and was instantly paralyzed.
I met Jack Fanning when he invited us to Park City, Utah, through his foundation. I was able to actually get on the mountain and ski with my family. I can't put in words what that meant.
I got paid in the military to get trained and fun stuff. And after my accident, I'm still that same guy. When I was able to jump out of a perfectly good helicopter at 10,000 feet, I did it.
I was talking to some vets last week, and it's amazing how we have these houses where they can come over because they're in chairs too. Carpet and wheelchairs don't mix very well. Tunnels, towers, they got rid of all that.
They redid my whole bathroom. That's probably the favorite part of my house.
I thought they were just going to do the upgrades, but the surprise to me was they paid off the entire mortgage.
When they told me they were going to pay off my mortgage, I cried. Please contribute $11 a month by visiting t2t.org now.
What's going on in the world today? European leaders are holding an emergency meeting, a summit in Paris right now, after President Trump announced that today there would be direct talks with Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Saudi Arabia and the Russians about how to end the war. Now, those talks are going on without Ukraine and without the Europeans. Germany calling this an existential moment for the continent. National correspondent Jeff Paul joins us in London. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Martha, we got these talks in Paris today were described as informal, but also as an emergency meeting in response to the Trump administration's strong push for a peace deal between both Ukraine and Russia. However, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who was at the talk, said this is all very premature, and he even said he's a little irritated.
Geopolitical people are talking here about possible variants of outcomes over the heads of Ukraine, about the outcome of peace talks that have not taken place and with which Ukraine has not said yes and has not sat at the table. This is highly inappropriate.
Many leaders in Europe are now questioning exactly where the U.S. stands on the war and how much they can rely on the U.S. as a key ally. French President Emmanuel Macron welcoming the leaders of Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands, Denmark, and the EU. Now, prior to the meeting, President Macron reportedly spoke with President Trump for roughly 20 minutes over the phone, but the details of that phone call were not revealed. This is all really starts from after when President Trump confirmed he spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin by phone in the hopes of ending the war. The special envoy to Ukraine has since alluded to holding Ukrainian peace talks without including any of the Europeans.
Yeah, hold on. I think I'm supposed to be on a phone. Give me a minute. I'll be right up. Okay, fine.
Continues is provide the tricky ideas to freeze the conflict while they themselves, as you did, merely why let them there.
And UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who was also at those talks in Paris today, says there must be a U.S. backstop to ensure long-lasting peace in Ukraine and to make sure that Russia doesn't start another war
call in London. Jeff, thank you very much. We're bringing NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Secretary General, it's very good to have you with us. You have just been in the middle of these meetings. We've seen some headlines. Thank you very much. We've seen some of these headlines coming out from leaders from Poland, basically saying that they understand that the situation is very different now. Europe absolutely must step up to the table in terms of expenditures. What is your take on these talks between the United States and Russia and Europe being excluded?
Well, this meeting was really very successful. What you see today, we had General Kellogg, President Trump's special representative at NATO this morning with the ambassadors. Now we had this meeting here in Paris with many European leaders, and really Europe is now stepping up. Last week, I was a bit disappointed that Europeans were saying, hey, we also have to be at the table, and why are we not there? And they are now really starting to dialogue, to strategize how they can support the peace effort. And that is important because we know that post a peace deal, there will be the need to make that peace deal lasting, enduring. That means we need security guarantees. So Europe can play a role there with a clear backup from the United States. So this was good. This was really a good day. We are moving forward here.
So what I'm hearing is that NATO is now okay with allowing the United States and Russia to have these negotiations. What about Ukraine?
Well, it's not saying that I am okay with that, because in the end it is of course the American administration engaging now in talks with Ukrainians and the Russians. It is my absolute understanding that Ukraine will be an integral part of those talks, which is only logical, because this is about Ukraine. Then there was the question of, hey, where are the Europeans? Now, what I said to the Europeans in Munich at this famous security conference the last couple of days was, stop complaining, start acting, get your act together. And tonight was an event, an evening, a discussion to really get that done. And what I heard here, people are willing to step up, to support a peace deal. Obviously, that means that we still have many details to hammer out because the whole peace process still has to start. But it is important that there is now more convergence on this, and I'm really positive.
Well, it's really interesting to see this push and shove, apparently bringing European leaders together and understanding that they have to make a stronger defense commitment in their budgets. I think that's a huge development. Here's one of the statements from the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, as you put it, from that very famous at this point Munich conference. Here's something really pivotal that he said. Let's watch.
That's why our message is so stark to our European allies. Now is the time to invest, because you can't make an assumption that America's presence will last forever.
Do you see this as a very large turning point for Europe and the post-World War II agreement that has seen the United States spending the most money in the entire equation against Russia? Is Europe now ready to take that burden of defense, 5% per country, as President Trump has asked for?
Well, clearly what the United States signaled in Munich, but also in a meeting of defense ministers with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth being there, what the US signaled is, hey, listen, Europeans, you've got to pay more. And by the way, this was the message President Trump consistently signaled between 2017 and 2020, and we have stepped up. Right now, we are spending $700 billion more on the European side of NATO than before President Trump came into office. It is absolutely still not enough. We have to do much, much more. But the good thing is now that we have a process in place by which we can exactly determine what the gaps are in terms of long-range missiles, in terms of our armies, in terms of our logistics, in terms of our military mobility, in terms of our air defense. And it will require a lot more money than we spent so far. We will come to the conclusions towards summer on this, but I can hear now from European colleagues that they're willing to step up, also when it comes now to Ukraine, helping with the peace deal, but also when it comes to spending more on defense, because it is fair. Not only because President Trump funds this, and Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, but also because we have to defend ourselves. And going forward, we cannot, if we do not spend more here in Europe, and the effect is that we will be more in balance with the US.
So I think that will be very welcome to the White House, the administration, and the importance of stepping up to defend Europe, especially against Russia. I want to ask you though, what you think Putin, how he will interpret all of this, because there's a lot of reporting in the United States that this could be seen as giving Russia an advantage in these talks, that they would still be able to keep Crimea and Donbass, the regions that they took over the last 10 years.
Well, Martha, as you know, the talks have to start. I have great trust in the American team conducting those talks. Ukraine will be part of those talks, no doubt. Europe wants to have a place at the table. Well, I told them, fight yourself a way to the table by coming up with concrete proposals. That is now happening. But to your point, President Putin has to realize that at this moment, NATO is able to defend itself. If he would try to capture 1 square mile of Estonia or Poland or whatever territory in NATO, the reaction will be devastating. My problem is that in 3-5 years, given his huge defense spending, given his huge defense industrial base, that we would not be able anymore to defend ourselves. And that is why we have to spend more. But this is also why on Ukraine we have to get to a deal which is strong. China is watching, others are watching, but it has to be strong and lasting and enduring, so that we make sure that he will also, when it comes to Ukraine, never try again.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that President Trump believes that Europe has to defend Europe when it comes to Russia in particular, and that the United States has to turn its attention to China and to the larger threats that are out there in order to secure really all of Western civilization. Is NATO willing to take on the peacekeeping mission, including NATO boots on the ground, for Ukraine when this negotiation hopefully is settled and the war is over?
Well, one NATO is for over 50% US. And the other 31 NATO countries, the combined economy is a little bit under 50% compared to the US. So the US is by far the most important ally within NATO. But the US is absolutely right that it is only fair that on the European side of NATO, we ramp up spending because we need to do it for our own defense, but also because it is fair to get this balance with what the US is spending on defense. But that doesn't mean that the US is abandoning Europe. No, we have to work together to make sure that we keep the whole of NATO territory safe. But clearly, we have to step up on this part. And when it comes to the other theaters, the other areas in the world where the US has to concentrate its attention on, obviously China, and of course the Middle East, it's only fair that they ask the Europeans to do more so that they can be able to make sure that they can have their attention concentrating on all these areas, including Europe. So I really understand that, but it doesn't mean that they are leaving Europe or whatever.
Well, it's fascinating that this discussion about Europe taking the reins appears to be galvanizing the countries of NATO to defend Europe, which is clearly what President Trump has pushed for and Secretary of Defense Hegseth is pushing for. Obviously, we'll see if they actually step up and that turns into that 5% commitment. I know you said it could be north of 3%. And we'll see where those numbers end up. Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, is speaking out now about these meetings. He says it is clear the United States will not lead NATO, but Europeans will have to step up. Did you get that same assurance from General Kellogg and other?